Welcome back to the Educated Ignorance Podcast. This is your boy Joe the Show. We are well, not live, I guess. We are here and we are ready to have some fun. This is our conference tournament preview week, and we keep rolling on. It is time for the Big East tournament preview. If you haven't tuned into this one already, please go back and first, of course, as always, if you're here, thank you for joining us. Like the video if you're new, subscribe if you really end up liking it, and make sure to tell at least one of your friends. If this is if you have not yet, make sure to go check out yesterday's Big 10 and uh, Big 12 champion tournament brackets that we did. We did previews for them as well on the Big 10 and the Big 12. So please go check those out. We really, really appreciate it. We've got everything coming to our Facebook and YouTube's throughout the week. YouTube, I should say, throughout the week here on the For Frequency Sake Podcast Network. All right. With all that in mind, let's get to it. We are now moving up to the Northeast where it is Mania, Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. And we are going to tap into the Big East tournament. It's one of my, if not, it is my favorite tournament. It is the one that I have the most childhood memories with, which is crazy to say considering, listen, I am washed, but at the end of the day, I'm not the age of Doug Green. Shout out to our friend. I love you so much. But I'm only 28, but I have, childhood memories. That's not a joke. I remember 6 overtimes between UConn and Syracuse. I remember Kemba Walker stepping back, putting Steven Adams in the dirt, and UConn going on their magical run in 2011. I remember Louisville, Terrence Williams and company having a crazy run through the Big East. So I remember all of these teams, the Hashim Thabit, DeJuan Blair, those teams from the mid 2000s, late 2000s. That was my childhood, really. I grew up watching and really falling in love with watching Big East basketball. And obviously I'm an Illinois and FSU fan, but I'm not one to just not care about other conferences or other leagues. But the Big East is something that I've always found fondly. And I always enjoy seeing MSG on conference tournament week. It's just so storied. And it fits. Everything fits. It's beautiful to watch. And I can't wait for this Big East tournament because there's a lot of good stuff to talk about and a lot of good stuff that we should expect to see come Thursday for day number 1. Wednesday through Saturday. So let's get into it. We start, of course, at the top with the UConn Huskies. They are the number 1 seed in the Big East. They are going to be probably the number 2 overall seed in the NCAA tournament, barring a first game exit, which would be shocking. They're minus favorites to win in New York, and this is a team that hasn't won the Big East, I believe, since 2011. They have not won the Big East tournament because you remember they had from 2013, 14 till right around the pandemic. They were back in the American Athletic Conference. So there was a long time where UConn was not a part of the MSG experience. They were not a part of the Big East tournament. So having Connecticut be this powerhouse that they've been now for the last 2 years, they got to the finals, I believe, last year, the Big East tournament, before losing, I think, to Creighton. And, they lost to Marquette, excuse me. This UConn team, I'm not looking at it here as the Big East tournament in general. I'm looking at it as a whole. I think there's, the question that's going to come up is obviously right now between, if you really look at it and you group it, it's them, Houston, Purdue versus almost anybody else. Last year, it felt like Houston and Bama versus the field. And of course, both of them got knocked out within 5 minutes of each other. UConn, who was the best team last year from November to January, had a dip in the middle of the season and then absolutely bulldozed everybody for a month in March. UConn's, though, this season, they've been the best team all year long. They've been, at least at worst, one of the 3 best teams all year long. Even when we thought they were going to have their weird stretch of the season like last year where they'd fall off, they lost, I think, their first or second Big East game. They go to Providence or they played at home against Providence, or was it Seton Hall? I think it was Seton Hall, and they got absolutely bulldozed. And Donovan Clingan got hurt, and he was out for a couple weeks. Who knew? Nobody really knew exactly how long he would be out. They go to Seton Hall and lose by 15. Clingan, it was their first Big East game. Clingan gets hurt, and you really have no idea what's going to happen. But after that, I mean, they went on a crazy run before losing at Creighton. And those were their only two Big East losses. Were the games at Seton Hall and at Creighton. They won the conference by 4 games, and there's a reason they're minus favorites for this tournament. But I'm just looking at it for the entire overall. Should they be the favorites going into the NCAA tournament? I personally say I think they deserve the respect to be the favorites going in because they're the repeat champion. If I had to pick someone right now, I believe I would pick them. But the thing is that obviously matchups are going to matter. The thing is, though, in my opinion, I feel UConn matches up with just about anybody. Their style, their size, they have depth that last year they had. And the difference I thought between them last year and everybody is they had I mean, at the end of the day, you need guys that can usually to win the whole thing, to win 6 games in a row in the NCAA tournament. You need guys that are pro-level players. And I think last year's team obviously had that. Sonogo was a borderline pro, but you had 2 dudes. Jackson was one of them, and of course Jordan Hawkins, who's getting minutes right now in New Orleans. Jackson has kind of bounced around between the Milwaukee Bucks and the G League this season. This year, they don't have the top-end guys, but I think Donovan Clingan is going to be a borderline lottery pick. He should be a first-rounder. I think he's really good. Tristan Newton could maybe be a G Leaguer or a bench guy in the NBA. So they still have those high-level players, and the depth and the style that they have, it's just so hard to match up with. So the question is should they be the favorites to repeat? I say yes, they have earned that respect because of how good they've been all season long without having the dip that they had in the middle of the season last year. Next, the biggest question, that's a macro question. I think a micro question for this week in general is whether or not Marquette should play Tyler Kolek. Tyler Kolek this year is going to end up being a first or second team All-American. You can argue when it comes to just point guards, pure point guards in college basketball. Tyler Kolek's the best. He is the toughest dude out there. And he suffered an oblique injury about 2 weeks ago. And since he has not played since, but Marquette has played pretty well without him. They have had some real good contributions in their lineup since Kolek went down with that oblique injury. They obviously, their first game they played without him, they went to Creighton, and got beat, but that's a tough game. And they didn't have Oso Ighodaro in that one either. And then they play UConn at home and hang with them and lose a close one. But then they go to Xavier on Saturday to end the regular season, and they play really well and end up pulling it away late. Cam Jones, since the Tyler Kolek injury, has really come alive. He had 23 against Creighton. He had 18 against UConn, and he had 30 in their win over Xavier. He has come alive. Jones I think he got jobs. He should have been a all Big East player. He ended up not being one, which is bizarre to me. But listen, I don't vote on those types of things. Regardless, when this team is fully functional, when they have their top 3 guys, Kolek running the point, Cam Jones as a off-ball guard/wing, and then you have Ighodaro who can do stuff inside, plus you have Joplin, you have a couple other guards that you can throw in there. This team is so deadly, so dangerous, and I think last year they just weren't seasoned enough, and Michigan State clipped them. I think this year they could make a Final Four run, but they need Tyler Kolek to be healthy. I think even without him, they can maybe win a game in the tournament. Without him, that's without him. They have no shot without him. to make a run with him. They can go all the way. The question now is, does he play this week in New York City? Some people are saying he should, just to avoid the potential of the committee getting frisky with them at dropping them seed lines. Say they lose their first game. So Villanova plays DePaul in their first game, and Villanova will win. I mean, me, DJ, Danny, Doug, it's a lot of D's, and like DJ's wife. No offense to DJ's wife. I'm just saying she could run point guard for us, and all the shots could go through her. And listen, I say this knowing that she could also beat my ass, but I'm just saying, us five and like my girlfriend Nicole, we could beat DePaul. DePaul is very bad. Villanova's going to beat them, and then Villanova will be desperate. Spoiler alert, we'll get to him in a second. I don't think Villanova should be on the bubble, but some people think they are. Villanova is going to be desperate, thinking that they can get to the semis in the Big East tournament. They have a chance to maybe crack the bubble and maybe the first four of the Big Dance. I don't think Marquette needs to completely risk it by putting Kolek out there. Would a loss to Villanova in the quarters be bad? Kind of. Villanova's been very average this season, but I don't think there's anything necessary. Listen, Kolek is tough. He's one of the toughest dudes in the country, maybe the toughest. He's going to want to play, but I think the risk is way more danger, like way more of an outcome than the reward, because core injuries, you just never know. Those types of things are so, there's so much to it that you don't know how it can get re-aggravated, and I wouldn't trust it. I would let Kolek rest until the Big Dance. All right. I think the Big East, when it comes to the bubble, I think they have three absolute locks. And, of course, in UConn, Creighton, and Marquette. I think Seton Hall, probably, even if they lose to St. John's, barring some bid stealers, they'll get in. And I think St. John's, even though it's dicey, it's very dicey, if they beat Seton Hall, they're probably going to make the tournament. Should they? I don't know. And I love the Big East. And I love what Rick Pitino's done, kind of, mashing this team together through the season. I mean, imagine if they would have kept AJ Storr, for Christ's sakes. But listen, I think they beat Seton Hall, who did finish the year with 20 wins. Shaheen Holloway, get that man back in the tournament. Of course, for Seton Hall, if Seton Hall loses, they're probably flirting with first four, maybe. I need to see here. I'm recording this Monday night. I'm not exactly sure what Palm or Joey Brackets has them, like what lines they got them on. They've got Seton Hall right now and St. John's both in the first four. So those are some things that are very noteworthy as we head down the stretch here into conference tournament weekend. I think Villanova, I think they need to go on an incredible run. Providence is a team that has the opportunity to get in if they win a couple games. They would have to upset a Creighton in their in the quarterfinals. If they can get to the semifinals, Providence has a shot to get in as an at-large team. It's just going to be very tough. Here's the thing. Providence has had their chances to get huge wins, especially at the Dunkin' Donuts Arena or Dunkin' Donuts Center. My apologies to the Rhode Islandites. But they just haven't been able to do it. Listen, they have probably, I don't even think probably is a testament here. I think Devin Carter is going to win Big East Player of the Year. He's a borderline All-American. He's been electric all season. They just haven't had enough juice, and they haven't had enough good wins. Like, you lose at home to Villanova. That's not good. You were up 15-2 against UConn and then got slaughtered. You do have an overtime win at home against Creighton. You did beat St. John's at home, but you go to Marquette and you get floored. You lose by nearly 20 at Villanova. There's just too many instances where they have kind of dropped the ball in a sense, and, Providence, they're going to be right on the cusp. I think Kimmy English has done a great job this season after all the craziness with Ed Cooley leaving and everything. But man, there's just going to be too many teams where they got to make a run and they got to potentially go run the table here to even have a shot. Outside of that, listen. Butler, Xavier, obviously all those teams are out. I don't think Villanova should get in unless they win the tournament. But I don't know. People are acting like they got a shot. I think that is just bananas to me, but what do I know? All right, let's get our predictions for the Big East tournament, as they say. I know I just kind of ragged on Villanova, but we're going to start with them. I do believe they are going to get to the semis of the Big East tournament. I think Villanova is going to knock off Marquette. I just think Villanova is going to be desperate. And Marquette, I think they should, and they're going to sit Kolek. And I think that's just kind of a ripe spot. So I think they are going to get there. I think Creighton, who's maybe the most under the radar team in the country, coming off the Elite Eight last year, returning everybody, they're just so sound. I think they will play in the semis of the Big East tournament. And then up top, of course, I have UConn knocking off probably Butler in the quarters. And then I have St. John's punching their ticket to the NCAA tournament by knocking off Seton Hall. Desperate Rick Pitino game. They're going to throw everything at them. And then St. John's will have the magic of the Garden in their hands on Friday night. It will be electric, but it won't be enough. I think UConn beats St. John's. I then think Creighton knocks off Villanova, and we do get a chalk matchup, but it's going to be a good one because it's going to be the 3 match between Creighton and UConn. Creighton's the only team that's beat UConn since UConn lost to Seton Hall back in December. That game should be fun. I think UConn will run. They will win their first Big East championship since Kemba, Walker, Kling-Kong, Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer, Caravan, all them boys, and Coach Hurley are going to be hoisting that trophy in Madison Square Garden. So UConn gets it done in MSG. Can't wait for it. All right. That's going to do it for the Big East tournament preview. Of course, go back and tune in to what we did yesterday, Big 10 and Big 12 tournament bracket previews. Of course, we've got big stuff coming up here in just a little bit. Today, we're going to have, I believe, our SEC tournament preview. I need to check my schedule. I'm checking ACC. So check here, ACC tournament preview coming up. Tomorrow, we will have a mid-major outlook as well as the SEC tournament preview coming up large. So please tune into that. We really, really appreciate it. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Find us on TikTok, all at For Frequency Sake. TikTok is For Fantasy Sake QC. This has been the Educated Ignorance Podcast. If you ain't got your game, best pass the sticks. We'll see you guys next time. We're out.